Let's get started with our first news. Tim Welch has officially responded to Dana White's recent comments hinting that Merab Dvalishvili will defend his bantamweight title in a rematch against Sean O'Malley. According to Welch, Sean was simply off during their first fight, which resulted in a unanimous decision victory for Merab. However, this time around, Welch is confident that things will play out very differently. He revealed that they have a new game plan in place, one that he believes will give Sean the edge and ultimately lead him to victory. Welch didn't hold back when discussing the potential rematch, making it clear that he believes Sean has what it takes to dethrone Merab. He stated, "It's okay if Merab fights anybody else. If Merab fights anybody else, he's gonna hump him on the fence and he's going to win. Everyone knows Sean wasn't on that night, and partly it's my fault. Partly it's a little bit of the game plan that I had for him. I don't want to give it away. Because we're gonna have a different game plan. It's gonna be a different fight. Just watch." Welch emphasized that Sean has the tools to be the one who takes Merab out, adding, "The person who can take Merab out is Sean, and I can't wait for it. It's a huge challenge, and it makes it that much sweeter after the Aljo moment. I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna ever beat that moment, but this is an opportunity to have a sweeter moment than that moment." He even went as far as to suggest a picture-perfect ending for O'Malley, saying, "That's especially if he just lays Merab out, and he's just laying there lights out, and we're going to move on." With Dana White hinting at this rematch, it's clear that the UFC sees O'Malley as a potential title challenger once again. But the big question remains, can Sean adjust and take out Merab, or will history repeat itself? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now, moving on to the second news. UFC analyst criticizes Ilia Topuria's decision to vacate the featherweight title. The MMA world is still buzzing over the news that Ilia Topuria has vacated the UFC's featherweight title to make a run at lightweight gold. But one person who is questioning whether El Matador really thought through his decision is Daniel Thomas. If you follow Topuria, you know that for months he talked about moving up to lightweight to pursue that title. Then, more recently, many jaws were dropped when Dana White announced Topuria had dropped the 145-pound belt because he has too much trouble making weight. In addition, Ilia also apparently feels that there are no more challenges for him at featherweight. Well, while speaking with MMA Junkie recently, the former UFC fighter turned analyst Daniel Thomas had this to say about Topuria's decision. "It's wild to me that he's giving this up now. There's no way a guy gives up pay-per-view points and his status as UFC champion this soon for no apparent reason, and no real reason other than he can't make the weight. I don't necessarily buy that. He's a young guy. It may be uncomfortable for him to make the weight, but I don't necessarily believe that he can't make the weight. But if he wants to go up, let him go up." It comes from a place of just that John Jones level of confidence, and maybe a bit of delusion that you have to be a good fighter. But to think that you're just gonna give up the belt and no problem, I'll just go get it at lightweight is such a wild, crazy, delusional way of thinking. No one's going to argue that Topuria is short on confidence, and really, it's not surprising given he's put away two of the greatest featherweights of all time in Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. But Thomas isn't the only person who has wondered if maybe Topuria could be rushing things here. If he can't make 145 anymore, that's one thing, but there were a lot of people who wanted to see him run it back with Volkanovski, or how he would do against Diego Lopes. Further, others like Daniel Cormier have questioned whether Topuria will be as effective fighting some of the larger lightweights like Islam Makhachev. But what's your take on all this? Is Topuria ready to challenge for the lightweight throne? Now, let's move on to the third news. Belal Muhammad has a message for Shavkat Rakhmonov. Over the past few months, the two top welterweights have traded jabs through social media and interviews, building anticipation for a potential showdown. However, despite their back-and-forth exchanges, Muhammad isn't denying that Rakhmonov has earned his shot at the welterweight title. Originally, Muhammad and Rakhmonov were scheduled to fight at UFC 310 in December, but an unexpected health issue forced Muhammad out of the bout. The champion was sidelined due to a serious bone infection, which led to Ian Machado Gary stepping in as a replacement. Despite the change, Rakhmonov remained undefeated, securing a dominant decision victory over Gary. On the strength of that win, most fans and analysts assumed that Rakhmonov would be next in line to challenge Muhammad for the welterweight championship. But in a recent twist, the UFC announced that Rakhmonov is now dealing with an injury of his own. As a result, the promotion has moved forward with a title fight between Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, JDM, at UFC UFC 315. Speaking with MMA Junkie earlier this week, Muhammad made it clear that he respects Rakhmonov's skills and accomplishments, saying, "I feel like he deserves it. He earned it with the Ian Gary fight. It's so easy to get injured in this sport. The training is the hardest part of the sport. We just saw it recently with Dan Hooker and with Arman Sarukian. It sucks, and like I said, me building my legacy, I want to take these guys O's. The next younger generation, that's the JDMs, that's the Shavkats. Unless there's a big fight with Colby Covington, or if he goes out there and gets a big win over somebody, I think he could earn it. But right now, I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at Shavkat." Muhammad's comments are hard to argue with. Rakhmonov is one of the most dangerous rising stars in the UFC, boasting an undefeated 19-0 record. More impressively, he's finished 18 of those fights, a statistic that highlights his well-rounded dominance. His resume includes submission and knockout wins over top welterweights like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Neil Magny, and Jeff Neal. However, one big question remains. Has Rakhmonov faced anyone with the elite wrestling, cardio, and pressure of Belal Muhammad? Styles make fights, and this could be Rakhmonov's toughest test yet. Or could Jack Della Maddalena shock the world and dethrone Muhammad at UFC 315 on May 10th? The MMA community is eagerly waiting to find out who will reign supreme in the welterweight division. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now, moving on to the fourth news, Tom Aspinall has finally provided an update on the highly anticipated fight with Jon Jones. As we approach the end of 2024's first quarter, there's still no official word on whether Aspinall and Jones will actually step into the octagon together. Fans have been eagerly waiting for an announcement, but according to Aspinall, the holdup is entirely on Jones and his team. For months now, speculation has been running wild about whether these two heavyweight stars will collide. Aspinall has been relentlessly pushing for this fight, making it clear that he wants the challenge. Meanwhile, Jon Jones has continuously brushed off the matchup. However, following his dominant win over Cyril Gane in November, Jones did finally acknowledge the possibility of facing Aspinall. He stated that he would be open to the fight, but only if the UFC offers him enough money. Fast forward several months and we're still at a standstill. So, what's going on? In a recent video, Aspinall shared this update. Where we're at right now is, I have spoken to the UFC on multiple occasions about this fight. I'm chasing it up. I want the fight. I've been on record saying that I want the fight. I've been on the phone with the UFC saying that I want the fight. When's it happening? I want the fight more than anyone. What's holding it up right now is his side. That's the truth of it. Aspinall also revealed that the UFC is fully on board with making the fight happen, adding, the UFC really wants the fight to happen. They told me that this is, as I said, one of the biggest fights that can be made. Does he want to put himself in a position where he's comfortable enough financially to take the risk that he's taking to fight me? Obviously, it goes without saying that it's a bit worrisome no fight has been signed yet, but also, it's not surprising given Jones's track record with the UFC and the contractual squabbles they've had in the past. UFC President Dana White has repeatedly assured fans that the promotion is working to get this fight done, but here's where things get even more interesting. Aspinall also said he's ready to fight regardless of whether it's against Jones. This raises a huge question. Could we see the interim champion take on a different opponent while waiting for Jones? If so, who would be next in line? Leon Edwards wanted to fight Belal Muhammad, but the UFC had other plans. Could Aspinall find himself in a similar situation? Stay tuned for more updates on this developing story. Finally, let's move on to the fifth news. UFC fighters react to FBI director's comments. Recently, new FBI director Kash Patel proposed a training partnership between the UFC and the FBI, and it looks like a lot of fighters are on board with the idea. Patel recently said that he's interested in having UFC fighters train FBI agents so that they can handle themselves better in self-defense situations. The statements immediately made headlines, and a lot of EX or current fighters were quick to respond. Case in point, former UFC light heavyweight champion Tito Ortiz had this to say about it while appearing on Fox and Friends. "I think it's a brilliant idea, but make sure you get the right fighters. It's not really supposed to be as a fight as if you're going to punch and kick anybody, but to subdue a person down to the ground, to put handcuffs on them the safe way for both persons." Justin Gaethje was also asked about Patel's proposal while he talked with TMZ. The lightweight contender reported he'll pick up the phone if the FBI calls him for the training gig. I think there's much more skilled people, but I got no kids, no wife. So if FBI Director Kash Patel needs somebody to go out there and serve some justice, I would love to be part of that team. I would love to be part of any part of that. I love representing this country. I can't wait to fly this flag, walk into the octagon. It's been a while since I've been proud to be an American, and we're back there. I'm excited to represent this country anytime. Anybody at that position needs my help. I'm more than willing. The UFC's heavyweight champion, John Jones, also reposted the story on Instagram, which one could certainly view as an endorsement of the idea. But what do you think? Do you think it would be beneficial for FBI agents to train mixed martial arts with UFC fighters? Let us know in the comments below.